All right, so we are going to review how to um, use multiple outputs in Battery. All right, so I have this drum beat. All right, so basically I have a kick, I have a snare, I have closed hi-hat, open hi-hat, and then by the time it gets to this ninth measure, I have this little kind of click, tangy kind of sound, almost like a little bottle. All right, and what I want to do is all kinds of issues just to point out right away. I'm already overloading the master bus significantly. And how am I going to turn down the individual drums volume in terms of, my kick, my snare, hi-hats, etc. I do have all the velocities up. I could go after velocities, but that's not how I want to do it, because I want to separate these drums so that I can process them separately, put EQ, maybe send them to reverb, which we'll review quickly as well. So in any case, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. First, in order for the routing, we need to reveal a couple additional columns besides what we see the insert column here. So we're going to reveal the instrument column, and we're going to reveal the I/O column. A couple things to point out. Right here where I'm clicking, that is the MIDI channel assignment little pane. So MIDI output selector. Over here, we have the I/O, which is the same as the I/O that we see in the MIDI in the mix window. This is going to become much more important for this specific purpose, because we have all of our drums, all the data on one track, and we only have one battery. So in a certain sense, like, we only need to have all those. It's really one MIDI channel. So in any case, what we're going to do is we're going to create 4 additional tracks, because I have 4 additional tracks that, or 4 additional drums: kick, snare, hi-hat, open hi-hat, and ting. And we are going to make them stereo instrument tracks, because our host track for Battery is stereo, and we want to maintain that stereo field. All right, I'm going to say 4. I'm going to name them. So snare, hi-hat, closed, hi-hat, open, and ting, just like I did in the demo. Okay, so while I could go in here and make sure that all of these instruments are communicating with this one battery instrument, I don't have to do that in this particular instance, but I think it's probably a good kind of practice just to do that, because if you have multiple instruments, you do need to do that. If you're using multiple MIDI channels on an instrument, you need to be able to do that. We'll be doing that later with Kontakt. All right, so back to Battery. I can kind of cheat if I'm not aware, if I don't remember what drum instruments are playing back. Okay, this is my snare, so kick. The kick defaults, we're going to have the kick come out of output 1 and 2. All right, Battery has 16 stereo outputs that we can assign pads to. This one's going to stay as input 1 and 2. So the first one we need to deal with is the snare drum. I'm clicking the control button, the control key on my keyboard, and clicking. And then I go to output and direct output, and I'm going to choose just sequentially 3 and 4. This is my closed hi-hat. Control, click, output, direct out, 5 and 6. That's my open hi-hat. Control, click, direct output, 7 and 8. And then here we have the creature circuit too. Control, click, output, direct output, 9 and 10. Now if I press play, you're only going to hear this kick drum, because all of these have been routed away from the default output, stereo output of 1 and 2. All right, so we're really kind of done with what we need to do in battery for the moment. Now, for these tracks, we need to say, hey, you need to connect. Actually, I'd like to just kind of have this up for a moment. We need to connect the output 3 and 4 of battery. We need to connect that. I'm drawing kind of a line with my mouse. We need to connect that to the input I/O of the given track that we want to hear that snare drum on. So when I click on this I/O, I go down to plugin because battery is the plugin. If I had more than one instrument on this session right now, I'd see a list. And I'm just going to go and see how stereo 3/4 is the first available. That's because, as I said, the host of battery defaults to output 1 and 2. We don't need to click on this track because it is kind of set up that way. In fact, we can't even access the output choices. So again, the output of the snare drum is 3/4. We go to the input of the track, down to plug-in, battery, 3/4. Plug-in, battery, 5/6. Plug-in, battery, 7/8. And plug-in, battery, 9/10. So now we have all of our drums playing out individual tracks. All right, so that's kind of done in terms of the routing. Now, what is cool about this? This sound is way too loud. I can bring it down. The snare drum is what's pushing us over here. So probably all of these drums will ultimately need to come down to give us some headroom on the track. I'm going to pan. I like to pan my hi-hat a little bit. So this is all stuff that you can do within the instrument, but it's really much more flexible to do it within your mix window. Okay, I'm actually going to balance my open hi-hat equally to my closed hi-hat, equally-ish. I can put EQ on my hi-hats. Let's give it a little bit of air here. See how that brightens it up? And then I can actually bring down some volume. Alright, what else can we do? So we have a reverb setup on an aux track. I've set the input I/O to the first available bus, 1 and 2. I've inserted my reverb. And now if I wanted to, and I do, I'm going to send some snare drum over to the reverb. Do the same thing with the hi-hat. Here's a little trick. Option, click, and drag. That copies all the current settings in that particular bus fader. I'm going to put some on this kick drum, but I'm going to bring it way down because that kick drum goes for days anyways. I don't really need anything. Alright, so what have we done? We have routed the outputs of battery individually to inputs in Pro Tools. Oh, just in time. I'm going to call that one a day. Talk to you guys later.